Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the TMossBoss Show. And in today's episode, I wanted to overall talk on, pretty much like a relationship advice episode. But it ain't like me reading no Reddit stories. No, this is actually the reason why I'm doing this podcast episode is because I was watching another podcast. And if I could just talk on that podcast for a moment, bruh, that is the most dysfunctional, out of pocket. What other things can I think of? Like, it's one of those. It reminds me of this teacher that I had back in high school where, like, just everything was all over the place. Like in her classroom, you had papers that didn't even belong in one area. You had a shelf in there where it just had more papers. You had it where her desk was filled with papers. The teacher in there, her desk was filled like another. It was like kind of like an assistant teacher. Her desk was filled with like, bro, it was just so just what is it? What's the words that I'm looking for? It's like not out of place, but unorganized. It is that podcast is very, very unorganized. And the reason why I was watching it is because a friend of mine was on there, and I only wanted to watch it for her. I was all like, Eddie and everybody else, like, there were people on there that did, they said some good things. But I was mainly there to watch my friend. I was just there to support her, right? And there was at one point in time where she was trying to get her point across, and this one girl on there just kept cutting her off. And I'm like, can you please let my friend talk and let her say what she has to say? Like, it was just, man, that podcast. If there's ever a time when I'm on a podcast like that, I think I'm gonna have to check the podcast. I'm about like, hey, yo, guys, we all just talk at, like, not at once, one at a time, okay? There's a difference between at once and one at a time. Man, that podcast, it was so wild. But I'm like, it's one of those podcasts where it's like, if you're, I don't know, man. Like, you just gotta have the mindset for it. But if not, like, if you're, so, like, imagine, my thing is this. Imagine, like, my last 10 episodes just being all played at once. That's what that podcast was. And then it was like, my friend, she couldn't even really, she said what she needed to say. When they would come to her and ask her a question. But other than that, it was like if everybody was talking at once and my friend tried talking, it was like, no, sorry, but we can't hear you because everybody think like, like, oh, their microphone is louder than the other person's microphone. But man, that podcast, and then plus, like, then the fans, like, that podcast is toxic. I'm gonna just be flat out honest. That is a very, very toxic podcast, and I'm like, the only thing I had to say is that there one girl on there was telling a story. Cause, like, so overall, like, what that podcast was, it was like these guys where they just have in like a bunch of girls on there, because they, at the end of the day, it's like, I feel like that they overall, like, they know that girls is going to bring them in views, because I feel like without the girls, I feel like that they're not going to get a whole lot of attention and stuff. Like, if you look, even in their introduction, like, they had like an intro for their podcast and stuff, and it was just nothing but just girls, and I'm like, I get it, I understand, but at the end of the day, I just feel like that nobody is not there for you. They're only there to just see, like, the attractive women that you have on there and stuff. So that's why I'm like, it's stuff like that where it's I don't know. Like, to me, I'm like, if they were to do a podcast, well, they probably haven't. They they getting views. They're making their money regardless. They don't care how they make it. They making their money regardless. But yeah, it's just from the main guy that's hosting the podcast, and then the fans. I'm like, bruh, I don't know if you're one of those people that take, like, insults to the heart and stuff. Like, somebody says something about you and you just, like, start crying or what. That podcast is not for you. Like, they pretty much roasted just about. I think my friend was safe, and then I think maybe a couple of the other girls that was on there, they were potentially safe. I don't know, because if, like, it was just so much, it was just very, that podcast is like a flashbang going off. Like, you're so disoriented, you don't know what's going on until you actually sit down and focus on one thing. Like, you got it's a 2-hour podcast, right? And you have to like watch that podcast at separate times just to focus on what like each person is saying and stuff. Because everybody, it was just it was just very unorganized and stuff. But so anyways, so no, what I actually wanted to talk on was that there was one girl on there, and she is kind of like the main motivation behind this episode being created. But it's more so when you hear like a friend of yours is getting into a relationship and you done had all these bad relationships, and now you want to pass off that trauma that you got within you to that friend. No, bruh. Like, my thing is this. Like, I will warn people. I guess, like, if they're telling me about this individual, then it's like, oh, like, nah, I know people like that, so, just be careful and stuff. And if they're, curious about it and they're asking me about it, I'm like, I will tell them. But if they're on some stuff where they're all like, no, they're different, they're not like that, they're not, then I'm like, hey, I'm not gonna get involved. But at the same time, like, I do want to be there in case if that friend does get hurt. So I'm like, all right, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm here for you and stuff. But then there's this one girl on there where it was like, she, like, if somebody were to say like, let me think of some stuff. Like, I don't know, like on some stuff where it's like they want to have a family, she would be all like, nope, don't have a family, kids are annoying, my kids are annoying. And it's like, okay, that's your kids, you don't want a family, but I do. So I don't think she was saying stuff like that, but well, I mean, she might have been, I don't know. I guess I'll have to rewatch the podcast and just solely focus on her. But no, man, it was like, it was just stuff like that where I'm like, bruh, just be like, here's the thing. And this is like universal advice for everybody, and it doesn't even have to be about relationships. This can just be with just all of just anything that has to do with life. Just because, okay, you've had some bad experiences, don't mean that others need to hear those bad experiences, experience those bad experiences of you just talking on them and things, or just none of that. Like, fam, that is your life. That is what you went through. That's one thing that I don't like, is that unwanted advice. Like, I didn't ask you for advice, but you just throwing that. Because no, that girl, she was just throwing out like her life left and right, and it's like, okay, you've obviously have had a different upbringing than I did, so I'm like, that, fam, that's on you. But no, it's on some stuff where it's like, okay, so you are looking at shoes, right? So you're in Foot Locker, Champs, wherever, you're looking at shoes. You see these Air Jordans. Then there's that person in there where it's like, I guess if you go in there and you ask them for advice about like that Jordan, and they're all like, hey, like, I have like 15 pairs of them Jordans. They're, I don't know what, well, I don't know, like, I guess, like, okay, maybe not 15, like, so let's say they was like, okay, I got like 2 pairs of that Jordan, and one is one version, one is the other version, but they're mad uncomfortable. Now, even though this is new, I would recommend trying it on before, purchasing it, but I'm gonna just say, like, the ones that I've tried on, they've been uncomfortable. So if that's if the person comes to me and they're asking me for advice. Now, if it's on some stuff where if they come through there and they're like, oh my God, like, I've been wanting this Jordan like for a long time now. Like, I got the money, I want to get it. I'm like, okay, fam, you are happy, you are excited, you love that Jordan. You want multiple pairs of this. How many do you want? 1, 10, 100? Like, bro, you tell me the number, I'll get them all out for you and stuff. But no, like, I guess if I would, like, I don't know, like, a part of me wants to, I guess, like, I will be kind of contradicting being a hypocrite right now, is because, like, I would want to give them, like, that advice on telling them, like, hey, warning, like, these shoes have been, a little bit uncomfortable. But it's like, I guess, like, maybe I just felt like, do you know, like, about these shoes? Like, I've heard, like, a lot of people, and if they say, like, oh, yeah, I don't care about none of that, I'm like, all right, hey, that's you, that's your lifestyle, I ain't gonna get involved. Like, I'm just gonna let you make your purchase, go about your business, and so on and so on, all right? So, but no, it's like it's just that unwanted. So, like, let's say, like, now me being that customer, I go in and I want to get the. Well, I've had situations like this before. Freaking, I think everybody remembers the Saints Row 3 story where the guy it was like he not even so he just wanted me to get the GameStop's card. So I guess that he was kind of like mixing advice with also me trying to make an unwanted purchase, and it's like, bruh, I came in here for a video game. I ain't coming here for no card. But anyways, I guess like in a newer and modern time or whatever, and in a more of an example of like of this unwanted advice. So it's like, yeah, so I go in there, Foot Locker, I want to get the latest Air Jordan 1s, and the guys are like, oh no, these Air Jordan 1s, they crease a lot. So it's that right there where it's like, I guess maybe on how you're wording it. If you word it where it's all like, hey, do you know these shoes crease a lot? Or even if it's on some stuff where it's all like, okay, like I would assume that the person already know about shoes, right? I would assume that they already know about them. So if they come in there, they already know what Jordan that they want. Then I'm like, okay, they already know about these shoes and stuff. So, but I guess, I don't know, like, I think it just more so has to do with if you are cool with that person. I feel like, okay, so I think it's like, if you're cool with a person, then I feel like maybe unwanted advice could be helpful because you're friends with that person. I just feel like that's like one of the things, and in the little contract that you have out for you and that individual, like your little friendship that you got going on. I feel like at times, yeah, you are gonna have to give your friends unwanted advice, because no, I don't know how many times where it's like my friends, they'll be having like one of their like sad middle of the night depression, just Twitter rants or whatever it is, and it's like, okay, like, let me go out, message this person and check up on them, see if they okay, give them that advice and stuff. But and I mean, yeah, there's been times where it's all like, like I've asked them, I'm like, hey, you need somebody to talk to, you need advice, whatever, and they're like, no. I'm like, all right, just gonna hold off. But if they keep continuously going on, then it's like, fam, you're kind of leaving me in a situation where it's like, okay, I care about my friends, I don't want them to be in a tough situation, so I will, but it's just one of those things where it's like, I guess, like, I don't know, like if I'm on my own platforms, like, so let's say like this, for an example, my podcast, then I'll talk on, my relationship experiences and just all my other experiences in life. But I'm not just going to be randomly just going up to people and just, if they look all happy in a relationship, then I'm all like, oh no, don't trust it. Because women ain't this. Or if it's a girl, they're like, men ain't this. And it's, it's just, it's stuff like that where I'm like, bruh, like, look, whatever. Because and that's another thing that I was thinking of. When did I start? Because I thought of this and it just came back to my mind. I can't remember if I was thinking of this right before I was going to take a shower or was it after? Either way, but I just find it super funny, right? How when they say like all men are the same or all women are the same, but they have a type. So, like, let's say, for an example, if you like crazy people, right? And every relationship you done had, that crazy person done did something to upset you. And you're all like, well, all girls are the same or all men are the same. And it's like, fam, this is your type. Like, stop dating this type and date somebody else. And so you won't have to be dealing with that particular type all the time. Like, that's just who you're going after. Like, you have a type that's built up in your head and you keep chasing after them and stuff. So it's like, no, obviously you're going to have to move on, chase after a different type and things. Like, chase after the quiet ones. Chase after the ones where it's like, they don't really be talking with people. Chase after, and it's just, it's one of those things where it's like, people, like before you open your mouth and you start saying stuff, like actually sit down, read the room, read the situation, okay? Read everything that you need to read before you jump out and say some stuff where it's like people are looking at you confused because they're all like, what are you talking about? Like it's on some, it's like, okay, that's your life. My life is different. And I guess like so like, let's say for an example, if I'm talking with somebody, giving them advice and they're all like, okay, well, that's your lifestyle. That you can't push that off on me. And then that stuff very well happens to them. Then it's like, that's when you're all like, look, fam, I told you so. Like, I'm sorry it had to happen, but that's just life and things. But yeah, I just think that, like pushing off your trauma on other people, it's like, bruh, if it's unwanted, then it's like, don't push it off too much. Like, I guess, like, you know, kind of like tease the waters. But if that water is boiling hot, fam, you know that water is boiling hot. So don't fool with it and things. Overall saying, if a person don't want your unwanted advice or your trauma that you done dealt with, fam, like go like far out. But man, anyways, yeah, I just think that, you know, people, they need to work on that. They need to work on, like, you know, not being so social and stuff. Like, it's just because I feel like there's people out there that they're just a little bit too social, and then next thing you know, it's like, yeah, it's just, you got people out there, they arguing, and then it's on some podcast where ain't nobody talking, and then you got one of my friends on there that's all like, I'm just gonna cancel everybody out and not listen to nobody until I hear my name and they're asking me a question. But anyways, and that being said, I will talk to y'all later. Thank you guys for watching and or listening. If you're viewing this on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe. And if you're viewing this on a podcast streaming service, make sure you follow or subscribe, however it's set up. Make sure you subscribe to one of my 46 YouTube channels. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Instagram at TMossBoss. And make sure you follow my Facebook page at TMossBoss fan page. And yeah, thank you guys for watching and or listening, and peace.